Hello everyone, Happy New Year! And I just wanted to do some nice simple tips and advice of good and bad line art for you all here. What you should and shouldn't do, what helps, what doesn't help. I already prepared a cute character design here for the job, loving the lazy game style. And before anything, something that I believe is very important to anyone who uses a stylus on any art application on the software, please check your pressure sensitivity. I'm using Procreate not only because it's the easiest to work with visually, but it's also very convenient. These are my preferred pressure sensitive brush tools, and if you heard a click noise, I screenshotted it because I'm going to reset everything. This is because, especially in Procreate, in my experience, messing with your pressure tools, whether on the art program you're using or even the brush, since they have their own settings for so as well, you should always mess with at least the basic of the setting to adjust to your hand and style. In my opinion, focusing on Procreate here is very stiff pressure sensitivity with no smoothing, and that's what makes my drawings wonky, as you'll see here. However, some may like it, which is fine. These tips aren't meant for everyone, but I highly recommend at least trying to do so, just in case you don't want semi-mono lines. I'm using a studio pen, which is one of the basic pens in Procreate itself. It's a bit edited, but it's just so I could color more within the drawing. And as you can already see, the lines are not only shaky, but feel rushed and half-assed. I'm trying my best to keep the perspective of someone new starting out Procreate and not messing with anything that they have. I wouldn't be lying when I say I try to make this work, but then I realized I really couldn't do much with the style I want to achieve using this kind of line work. My picture will look flat and incomprehensible no matter what. I do want to say it isn't impossible to make a good drawing like this. Like before I received the Apple Pencil, Procreate and everything, I used to do commissions and more on Medibang first, which is a free art program on the phone and iPad, and would just use my finger. God, that burned my finger. And I have really proud drawings I still love to this day. The issue is, however, some may outgrow or dream for a more pop-out style that is rather detailed in 3D. Not saying that you can't achieve it with doing what I was doing before, but it's a lot easier with the right tools. An example right here from the progress is the bell. God, I hate the bell. It's literally 2 lines and an X, which is how I draw them, but not looking like that. After seeing that, I gave up trying to fit me and tried to do a similar style. I would go back with my finger rubbing the screen in agony. But the lines were so sloppy and so accurate to my shaking, which I'm not a fan of. I know that there are some workarounds, but this is meant to show what could happen if you don't bother trying to learn your programs when you want a visually good outcome. Despite trying to detail the drawing how I would casually, it just wasn't working out, and a few things within it made me cringe, like the breast, hand, the bell, and the glasses. I usually use the ruler tool for those shapes, like the glasses, which is such an eyesore, seeing such a nice circle next to the god-awful line work in the hair. I wrote a few notes of what bothered me and why, things like tangents, touching, and how flat this felt to me. You may like it, but if that's something the artist didn't want, there's an issue. Again, this may work for others, this may not work for others, but some could be struggling with this predicament and need guidance on how to even use said settings in the first place, which is the purpose of this. 5 out of 10 never using this again. Now, I readjusted my pressure sensitivity and smoothing to close enough for the screenshot that I had it before. You're free to replicate these settings if you want to help give an idea of what helps me and what might help you. And now, drawing. First of all, this is so much more loose and free, using long, elegant, and smooth strokes despite my shaky hand, all because I changed the smoothing ever so slightly. And now I can manifest the shapes in my head of who I want for this character. I am also rotating the canvas much more compared to before. This is something that can vary person to person, but much like twisting paper on a traditional drawing, it helps you with angles you might have struggled to do upright before. Always try to do whatever is comfortable with your hand and body. Just don't get too sucked up into it, like zooming in to do the itty bitty details that nobody will ever look at. Otherwise, you'll end up with a different result. Besides tapering the lines for a nice clean look, I can always fill in the ends in a way that makes it more dynamic and stylized yet clear. Despite opinions, this is a more smooth to my personal skills. Even the glasses are more 3D, just adding a bit of pressure on one side more than the other. And the bell is my favorite here, just because I'm doing the same X shape as before, but with pressure, pen pressure, and actually feels more round, more 3D. A completely different feel to the bell before. I will admit, because I love line art dearly, kind of biased, whenever I get sucked into the little details and the mood of it, I add more details and such I wouldn't have done before. It's an odd drive, so the result does look somewhat more different than the bad line art I did before. But that's literally because I just want to figure out and envision more of how this looks. The drive and progress are building blocks to more of what I want. Now, as I clean this out, you can feel a more cartoony but lifelike dimension on this drawing, on this design. Even the cross hatching and the minor things just to get a feel. I always recommend making the line art twist in your way of what makes it your art and why. Yes, I know I'm adding more details than I did in the other drawing, but again, the drive and the wind, it just feels so nice when you get the feel of what you actually want. I will also ask questions as you do the line art. Not in a harsh way though, like why is this suck? What am I doing wrong? Really try to observe it, like take a step back or look at your reference tab in case you had used those, and try to judge it like you would with someone else's art piece. Respect it like others. Say to yourself, what is missing? What would look better if I tried this or this? What makes it pop out to me more than the rest and why? Figure out your strengths and weaknesses. All of these methods might help your line art game easier and more reliable than before, but again, it varies from artist to artist. This is meant to generalize and help those who struggle or couldn't grasp an idea of how to fix it. Another thing I want to show, since I've been on a huge tangent of how the settings within the brush matters, this is the same brush I've been using for line art for this video. And like I said before, each brush has their own settings within Procreate and other art applications. And luckily, Procreate has a drawing pad to the right for testing, which I'm using to mess with the size, pressure, opacity, tip, and more. I don't know all of these, but I know enough to change it heavily and cater it to my own hands. The settings can get jarring at first, which is why if you ever plan on messing with these, I always recommend to make your own Procreate pen folder and duplicate the pens before anything, so that way you don't accidentally screw up the pen and can't go back. One of my favorite settings to mess with is shape and grain, especially grain, because that is how I'm able to give my brushes texture, to get a drastically different, and this may or may not help you, but it's just best to say in case you want that little texture that I love within the drawing, and a slight fade to help me make it somewhat sketchy with harsh dynamic lines. A good balance of both, and if you're curious about trying, I'll link my own brush I added down in the description. I do hope that this helps give some insight to how pen work works, and for everyone to have a lovely day and stay safe. Good luck on your line art and enjoy yourself. Enjoy it. Art is fun. Have a good day.